Okay, we are going to talk about today what an ecosystem is. So, basic definition ecosystem, just something that includes all the living and non living factors in a physical environment. So, remember from biology that abiotic means not living and biotic means living. So, anything in this ecosystem example here on the screen is living. And the fish, the algae, the plants, don't forget the plants. And everything else is not living. The sun, the water, the temperature, the pH, whatever the soil or rocks are. So if it's alive, it has cells, can grow, it's a biotic factor. And if not, then it's an abiotic factor. But those two factors together are what make an ecosystem happen. Okay, so one of the most important things in an ecosystem are relationships. The predator prey relationship is crucial to how well an ecosystem can flourish. If you have too many predators and not enough prey, your ecosystem's out of balance. And if you have too much prey and not enough predators, your ecosystem is also out of balance. So everything needs to kind of be in its groove of equilibrium. So, classic example, usually they use like wolves and rabbits or maybe lynx and snow hares, but the prey rises and falls with time, as does the predator population, which rises and falls with time. So, you can see that as we're going along, the prey is very high at a time when the predator population is low, and there's kind of this lag. So as there's lots of prey, oh shoot, I went the wrong way. How do I go back? Go back, go back. As there's lots of prey, the predator population will rise, and then as the prey starts to decline because there's more predators eating the prey, then later on the predators will also start to decline. So there's this lag between the prey population and the predator population. So you can say that the prey population kind of dictates how the predator population is going to react. Another relationship in the ecosystems are these ideas called symbiosis, the close, long-term interaction between two species in an ecosystem. For this course, there's three kinds of symbiosis relationships you need to know about. The first one is mutualism. That one's pretty easy because mutual means like together. So it's easy to think that both species are getting something out of the relationship. The bee is getting its nectar for its hive while the flower is getting pollinated and is going to be able to reproduce. So both species are benefiting between that relationship. The alligator is letting the bird clean all the meat and junk out of its teeth. It doesn't eat the bird, and the bird's getting a little free meal. So he's getting dentistry, and the bird's getting a meal. So that's a benefit for both of those species. So that's mutualism. Commensalism is a little trickier. One species is getting something out of it, and the other one's not really affected. So the classic example would be the barnacles on the whale. So you can see these barnacles here on the whale. They're stuck on the whale. They get a little trip through. Gosh darn, this thing's really sensitive. They get a little trip through the ocean and get to feed on the plankton throughout the ocean, and the whale isn't really bothered by having those barnacles on it. Another one here is this gazelle. It's got this whole big mishmash of spider web there. The spider is definitely benefiting as the gazelle's bending its head down, eating the grass. It's catching some bugs in that web, so the spider's getting a meal, and the gazelle doesn't really care that there's a spider up there. We would care, but the gazelle doesn't. The gross one, parasitism. So one species is getting a benefit while the other species is actually being harmed. So classic one is mosquitoes. Mosquitoes are drinking the blood of their victim, and yeah, the mosquito bite's kind of a pain, but sometimes, and a lot of times, mosquitoes will inject a little something into you and you'll get something like Zika virus or yellow fever or some kind of disease that's spread through mosquitoes. So that's not a good thing. That's a parasitic behavior. Inside here, this is someone's gut, and they've got tapeworms. So you can eat things, and then there could be a parasite in an undercooked meat, and that can grow in your gut, and that can be a problem. The worm needs your gut to survive. You definitely don't need the worm to survive, and it's living off of you. So oftentimes, not always, a parasite needs a host in order for it to survive. Some people think maybe even a virus could be considered a parasite because it needs a host to survive as well, but that's another discussion for biology. Okay, another really important thing is competition. In an ecosystem, there's always competition. They're fighting for a resource, they're fighting for space, they're fighting for the food, they're fighting for the mates, whatever it is. So competition could happen between different species or within a single species. So like these two wild dogs are fighting over this deer kill, and that's competition, competition for food. They could be fighting over a female that's somewhere else, that they're fighting for that mate. They could be fighting for a little space over there to live in, to have a shelter, have a habitat, or something like that. So the reason we have competition is because resources are limited. We're on a planet with finite resources, and so competition happens. Environmentally speaking, a lot of species are now in competition with humans for that space, for that food. So not only are they competing in nature, but we are another factor on top of it. We build on top of their habitats. And so now we have coyotes coming into neighborhoods because that used to be their habitat, or mountain lions, or different things you see in the news with the bears and the swimming pools and the trash cans. So one solution that's pretty cool you need to know about is resource partitioning. So this is kind of a solution that nature has that allows different species to share their resource by partitioning or dividing it up in between the species. There's different definitions of resource partitioning. It could be using the resource at a different time. Maybe one's in the morning, one's in the afternoon, one's at night. Maybe different places, the lower part of the tree, the middle tree, the top of the tree, and different ways. Maybe some of these animals you can see they only eat the new needles. Some eat older needles, some eat the lichen, some eat the bare branches. So they use this same tree resource in different ways, and that lessens competition, and therefore it ensures more survivability for all these species on the planet. Could humans take a lesson from resource partitioning? Maybe. Another example of resource partitioning here at the shoreline. So you can see all these different species are using this same area of resource in completely different ways, therefore enabling a lot of variety or a lot of biodiversity to exist in this ecosystem, because all of these creatures aren't fighting for one thing. They're fighting for different things. And you can see they've evolved and changed their beak shapes and their behaviors to get the resource that they want for their food. So resource partitioning is a big deal. Okay, so hopefully that kind of is a good intro for ecosystems for us. So make sure you take notes on this. And then in your composition book, I want you to look at the notes that I have in the PowerPoint and telling you what you need to copy down, and draw a picture of one of these key ideas in your composition notebook.